and a familiar face to most. Both teams have met before. Sadly, last season we saw a very similar team, all but with one big difference here. Same group of people. Kex is, I think, the stand-in for now. But the big one to look out for, JeffSicko, the newest addition to the team in a pretty recent fashion, and the new leader of the team for that matter, ever since Buddha's semi-recent deciding to commit to 2K, whether we like it or not. JeffSicko has come in to be the leader, to be what Buddha was, and try to imitate what was arguably the greatest season from a team ever. We saw the greatest gameplay from a duo ever in Quex and Papafyy. We saw perfect entries. We saw a really good IGL play. We saw everything that felt like a complete team could ever be. It was probably the greatest peak for any single team ever in our 6 console league. And now I get to see a new leader try to take it on with that same second place team, hoping to maybe capitalize this time around. We're starting off with a relatively fun map in Nighthaven. I personally do have Spartans winning this one as a bit of a revenge start, but either way, we're going to see Electricity go first. Not a big hard breacher focus. Ace is pretty common, but Blitz is on the more uncommon side. Doesn't seem to affect Orbital, though. He'll gladly sneak onto the Montang instead. More extended shield, maybe a little bit of a slower pace, but should still keep that same core shield use. Also, I really gotta change this music. Not gonna cap. We are not listening to some bad music. We're throwing on good tunes tonight. That's much better. Remember, each map will have a minute 30 break, likely. In that time, sadly, no hosts, no anything for semifinals, but we will likely see if the other semifinals, we'll see how that plays out, but there's a chance I might have a desk host and a full group of people for that one, but to be seen. You know, there's a lot that could change. There's a lot of people cooking in one kitchen, and this is, I think, will be one of the few solo casts I'll have in the next couple weeks. We're likely going to see a new co-caster come in for me. We'll see how he fares in a pretty extensive BO3 schedule for me. We're going to see a new producer, maybe a new observer. So a lot of new people that are going to likely come in and try to make their impact. And we'll hopefully have a much better production coming into the grand final season for 2 pretty damn big leagues. Always a fun time when it happens. Now we get arguably, I think, a possible chance of a rematch. We are minimum maybe going to see this matchup twice, where it obviously changes from Wild Boys Console League and SXL, but there's a chance we see this game more than once, and both of them with huge implications. Instead of winning the grand finals, you're going to secure a ticket there to likely go against Wild Boys, but to be seen. Either way, it's finally the group of people that you were most excited for. It's finally that group that should be the banger. And maybe this time we can hopefully see just a little more fight with the, I think, newly renewed Spartans. They lost Sprays as the leader, but that was a more forceful removal, if you will. They look much better, I think, this season in terms of the stats. Their entries have improved massively. ITQC has taken a much better number 2 role. DeJevin has come in at the very end here to try to help out. Noct is still putting up the good numbers occasionally. And I will say to start off, maybe a little bit crazy aggressive, with one man possibly catching a lot of, shots coming towards him. Excuse me, Warden, JeffSicko, the one to try to do it. He's going to likely have to take the first fight, whether he likes it or not. Misses. Not going to find the pick you want quite yet. 2 leaders trying to go at it, Squirtle and JeffSicko. Or as he can be known, CharlieWorley, a former relatively popular player, but maybe not to what he was, beforehand. Either way, JeffSicko is going to keep going aggressive. He's going to keep trying to make his move. Quex is going to find the first on Orbital instead. Quex is going to find 2, getting rid of Squirtle now. Seems that the main man and arguably one of the greatest players we've seen in a grand final is going to pop off. Papafyy, his duo, is going to come in. He'll also be down for his kill. Noct might get that trade, but 2-player disadvantage going into that minute mark is going to be a really hard thing to come up with. But one more pick on the Dark here should help a little bit. Once again, a player that popped off beautifully in those last 2 maps for the side of 907. Came in as a sub and just dominated from the get-go. We've seen him become a much more certified role. Quex is going to go aggressive now, not a triple for him. Leaving just ITQC with a lot of pressure on his plate. He's going to have to fight multiple people. One's going to come in, Quex with the quad, and it seems absolute that Papafyy and Quex will dominate, at least starting off. Who needs a team when you have arguably the greatest duo? Maybe a bit of a revenge game. Maybe a bit of a return to their prime back when Squirtle was here. Can they chase what was arguably the greatest duos in a BO3? Can they do it? Maybe, but they'll have a long, long path ahead of them until then. However, like their previous playings, it's a relatively similar group of people who's going to be playing the general roles for the side of Spartans. Charlie's still going to be the entry. Cody's still going to be the flex. We're still going to see ITQC likely move around where he needs. Noct and Tactical. We'll see who plays where. Obviously, you do have a couple of people to change, and I would expect the Jevon to maybe play that soft support or even flex. But either way, I would expect a pretty same game. Buddha, on the other hand, obviously now gone. He'll likely, be replaced by JeffSicko, who is the entry of this team, replacing Vux. Dark is also going to come in, as there's not really a true IGL. I think if it's anyone, it still would be JeffSicko, the entry, a very aggressive style of, commanding a team, but he's seen a lot of success this year. Maybe not as much as last season, where they didn't drop a single game on their way to grand finals. But either way, it still feels like this team is an absolute. 907 still feels like they can, show up any single night and ruin your life. They can always be aggressive on the roam. They've always had one of the best roams, and they haven't lost that since Buddha's departure. If anything, their roam has gotten more aggressive. They relied on it more, and it hasn't really failed them so far. Most teams can't even touch the roam with how good it is, which does leave a lot you're going to have to find. But I think the largest issue, and also arguably the most prevalent to this team, is Quex. Beautiful in his game back in grand finals when they did originally meet, and gave up almost nothing, really. He just kept consistently dropping huge games into that BO3 in his way to playoffs, and it at least seems you're going to see a reminiscent version of himself here tonight. As well as Papafyy, likely to deal with the first big fight. Aggression coming in from ITQC with the Ram. Verticality will always be an issue, but down over in Warehouse, we're going to see Djevon make his move. Been a little bit quiet so far to start, but don't count him out by any means. Well, Noct is at least going to find that first pick. He'll be the one to get rid of Quex and stop what was a beautiful 4-0. But at least one kill on that mark. He'll have one death to work with. Aggressive still Papafyy is the other end of that duo. Your peanut butter to your jelly. Arguably still a really good player too for your team. Orbital is going to find a pick under JeffSicko. Those Spartans gap widens a little bit more, but Papafyy and Dark both bring it back, getting rid of Squirtle and Orbital. And just as fast as it returned to an advantage, taken right back. But Djevon does have a pretty solid plant here. He could probably go for it here. However, the issue is there's no real cover from close teammates. He's going to have to be super risky to do it, but Kex is waiting for it. The double swing was going to come in either way. Now you do have a little more issues. Noct is going to likely have to go aggressive if he wants to take a pick. ITQC might have a right idea of where to shoot, where to be, but he's on the alone here. He's already down players. In terms of what you can do is going to be much more limited. As Zombie's just going to keep using hers to consistently play around, just toy with the man. But Noct is going to come in from behind. He's going to try to make his move. Taken out by Dark immediately. He heard that sound cue, capitalized, leaving just the Ram to go for it. ITQC is still going to find one pick with 30 seconds, though. Your options are very, very limited tonight, and it's going to get even more limited possibly. But ITQC still finds one more, leaving just Kex to try to finish it out. Might have a good idea of where it is, but he's still going to win that fight. ITQC, the beautiful shot, though. And in a 1v3, when all hope should have been lost, said Spartans hang on and get a beautiful triple kill, and they continue on just fine. Also, Loki, Henry. If you're... All right. Okay. After this round, we're going to go on a slight break and get a new guy in. because we're going to have a very busy and very weird tech pause, but it should come in with a new co-caster. All right. But at least 3 rounds in, it has still felt like a very, very close game. A pretty beautiful clutch from ITQC does save them and bail them out of having a 2-0 or an 0-2 start. But at the end of the day, I think this game is going to be built on those clutches. It's going to be built on those players coming up to the pressure and still standing strong, even in the disadvantages. It's what these teams have been built on. Both of these teams have one of the highest clip percentages out of any team in console. They've held it consistently. Squirtle is still arguably a top 10 entry when he locks in. What? Nighthaven, SXL League. Shit's right. No. All right. Anyway, we'll have a co-caster in here next round, so I'll have a slight tech pause. Not more than like 10 seconds, 20 seconds to get him in and just get him ready and locked. We'll see about how it's going to go. We'll see. Well, at least 2 brows on the job. Saves the wall for just a little longer. It won't really be the permanent solution I think they're hoping for, but it just buys more time, and I think that's always going to be what they wished for. And opts to just not try to time it here. Just let him have the wall, waste just a little bit more time. We'll get it just around 2 minutes or so. But next big move to likely be made is Dark, of all people, is the one sitting close to the fights. And still, no one has really gone for that crazy aggressive push yet. We've seen people get ready. We're seeing all those drones, that utility come in. Papafyy is going to find the first on ITQC. Verticality shot. Take him a bit backwards, but I think they'll gladly take that pick. However, Blackbeard from Orbital will be the one to likely try to make their move in next. Noct is still sitting outside the window. I don't think we're going to see a hop in from Noct for at least a little bit. Just going to wait for their moment. Squirtle is going to find his first pick in what has been a little bit of a quiet start for him. As I say that, Jevin makes his move, finally getting on the board, getting rid of Kex. Aggression is going to come in from JeffSicko, though. He's going to find 1, get damage onto 2, down on a Noct, finishes it, and JeffSicko gets a needed double to try to bring this into a pretty hard post plan either way. The 2v3 is still very winnable, but there's a lot you have to deal with here. The wall isn't a easy fight to take. But they might have a long arm here if they can get it just right. Dark might be close enough to get it. He's just barely searching, and it looks like Dark can get it. He's going to have the long arm, and they don't know it quite yet. He's just been able to escape, get the defuse, and 1 more round goes in out of 7 out of just simply not knowing. Hey, winners are there from... Huh? Payout winners. Huh? Whatever. Either way, after this ban, we will see a small little tech pause to get some stuff figured out, and then we'll come back looking stronger than ever. Huh? Just a quick little pause as we get this back together and get this new caster, co-caster, excuse me, in and ready. All right, after a little bit of getting stuff figured out, we should have our new co-caster in. Ready and fun. Want to introduce yourself?
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many
Absolutely.
bombs as they can.
And actually, I just forgot something probably important for you. Preferably, don't question the quality. I am not running on the greatest PC tonight. But overall, just to catch you up to what we've sort of seen, 907 had a pretty great end to the last round, had a long arm defuse, just barely snuck their way into winning that one. And the only round win we have seen has been from a pretty lucky clutch from ITQC in a 3v1. We've seen those flashes, I think, once again from Spartans and what did get them close to winning a grand finals. But once again, I think we're seeing 907 is the more complete team. They have shown to just have a little bit of issues, but I think all to be seen. I sent you something, by the way. Older notes, but just help a little bit. Anyway, to start off, a little bit of lack of aggression, I think, both teams. Once again, we love in seeing Spartans. They love to get set. They love to play these more passive runs. Just take what comes to them, but I would expect a relatively slower play, especially since DeJevin's here. I think he's perfectly fine since his switch to PC to just kind of play what comes to him. It has been shown to me, but at least a couple of these guys still sticking to what they do best. We are going to see the first pick go out. Squirtle's going to go down. The star entry so far been a little bit lackluster. I think all in due time we can maybe see a change. But we're at least seeing Orbital try to get aggressive here. Nox going to do it instead. That'll be the first pick finally for Spartans, getting rid of JeffSicko. Both of the main entries go down. Like we try to see Papafyy make his move, just keep holding what feels like an insurmountable amount of space. Well, at least to start off, we're trying to figure out what's going on here. Orbital likely do at least have something to work with. He's going to try to go aggressive on the Monty, try to just buy himself a little bit more time to work. Seems the aggression's also coming elsewhere. Kex is going to find that pick on a knocked. Papafyy and ITQC, both of those go big. Papafyy on Orbital, everyone finds the picks they need, leaving just DeJevin, that support player, in the 1v3. We've seen it before with ITQC, but not tonight. Quex locks it in, and so far a beautiful 3-1 start for the side of 907. Seems a dominance. Yeah, but I think as we've seen DeJevin, he has so much experience in leagues, in teams. I think that you can generally see him be a little bit more equipped to handle those sort of situations. That's why I'd say he's easily the biggest add for Spartans as of recent. Yes, he's gotten a PC, but I think, yeah, that experience that he can bring and the general hard support play should be a huge factor, especially when you get into Cafe in that second map.
Defenders, protect your bombs from being defused by attackers.
Overall, though, and as per the rules, real quickly, just a disconnect happened on their side. Spartans are going to opt to call a rehost, and we'll be back in just a little bit as they get that settled. And we're back after just a little bit. Had to have a couple of tech issues and what was the first rehost for Spartans pretty early in, to be fair. But I think it might actually do quite a bit of good for them, just simply just resetting their mental after what has been a pretty disastrous start. And a pretty great one for 907 in total. Overall, though, who do you have winning this map 1?
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can. Attackers have located a bomb.
All right, fair enough. I think a 3-1 lead should be a pretty big one. Do you have this half going to a 3-3 split? Do you have it being a 5-1, 4-2? What do you think is going to happen on the half at least? All right, I can see where you're coming from there. We have seen, once again, a pretty aggressive 902 on the attack. Or excuse me, not 907 on the attack. Quex and Papafyy do love to freestyle, I think, a lot on the attack, and they're really good at finding those gaps and exploiting them. So I can totally understand where you're coming from there. Yeah, no, I can totally get where you're coming from. We are going to at least see Djevin be pretty damn aggressive so far, already making his way into electrical, trying to maybe lurk for a pick, but Quex is at least in the right area to try to stop this one when it does come in. Swing does come in. Quex finds it pretty damn easily. Djevin's going to go down. A bit of a mental shock with the body shot. But another entry to just keep following in the way. JeffSicko with Squirtle also on board. Losing her star entry is going to hurt quite a bit of the aggression here, and I think you're going to see a much more passive game, but Dark just cannot let them go. No one's finding any real value here if you're the side of Spartans. You just cannot find a break. Yeah. It just hasn't been that same Spartans that has dominated before, and we kind of saw the same issue in grand finals back in last season, where they would get so close, you know, in some fights, and they would have what felt like a good winning formula, but it always just fell apart. And I think it mostly just came down to how aggressive and how flexible the side of Quex and Papafyy are for the team. I think they're really that variable and changing factor that we're going to see really influence this game the most. Either way, it should be a beautiful pick for Dark, and finish shot by Quex pretty easily as 907 at least start off what feels like has been an amazing run for them. I do sort of worry, though, the longer we see, you know, this win-lose streak go on. We saw the same issue. The mental was so hard to come back if you're Spartans. Just losing this much and not really having anything to hang your hat on. The entries have been good, but they haven't been enough. The trades have been good, but they haven't been enough, and I think that's kind of been the story. They've been good. They've still held on to reasonable numbers, but they don't have a stat to really take home and say, we can control this. Yeah, I mean, it's a sad thing to see, but we've seen it before, and I think that can be the issue with Spartans sometimes.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
Yeah, and I think that this is probably the most defining round, at least to start off. You're forced, I think this is a bit of a... You have to just show some flashes here. Even a round win isn't, I think, necessarily what they need. They just need to see something here. A strong entry play maybe from, you know, the side of Squirtle to really show that he's still got it. Just something somewhere to give Spartans hope. I think that's what they really... I mean... yeah, I'd certainly agree. Much more of a unique way to go about it, but... You know, I think that there's still some hope here. It really just... I see what the plan is on the side of Squirtle or CharlieWorley, whatever you prefer to say. He's trying to go aggressive. He's trying to just have this big, you know, statement showing I can still go aggressive. I can still be what I was in the regular season. Yeah, I mean, it is certainly a risky one, but there is a lot of benefit here if you can mental chalk, if you can pull out the weird op and maybe just get in their heads. It's a good start. We are going to see JeffSicko at least find a Jevin. Another swing comes in, but at least Squirtle finds his value. The Supernova does find at least a little bit of use, and he'll make his way into electrical. Certainly, and you will at least see a C4 come out, not with the pick I think they were expecting, but still damage on orbital is at least worth some value there. Shot straight on electrical, and you know at this point where the push is coming from. There's no secret. It's going to come over electrical side over. It's just, can you find those important picks? Yeah, and at least ITQC is going to get rid of Dark here. Just make it a little bit better. Maybe just have at least some advantage to work with, but I think we really do have to see ITQC either come behind here and just start dominating this verticality because it hasn't been there yet. Squirtle's at least going to find Papafyy. Kex the other way around. ITQC finds his. Squirtle's going to go down, though. Still a resable player. Yeah, I mean, I think that it came a lot closer than they would have wished, but with only 10 seconds left, this one's all but over. It might have been a shaky path there, but maybe the aggression at least paid off here. Squirtle found his pick, and Spartans at least get a pretty important round here. Yeah, it's certainly not an easy fight to win, or it's not even an easy thing to really, I think, as a leader of a team, try to rally your guys up. Just try to keep going on, despite the harder half. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from there. Well, also, real quick, I forgot to throw it out, but I do kind of wonder, down to, do you think Spartans can bring this to overtime, or do you think we're going to see regulation end still? Yeah, and I think that even, as you said, with those negative, KDs so far, you still got to worry about him. I think that in this team generally, the threat of a player is still massive no matter what their KD says, simply just because there's only so many kills to go around. And you're going to see rounds where someone like Quex is going to drop a quad, as we saw originally. We're going to see players like Dark maybe go big. We're going to see Papafyy maybe take a round here, a 1 or 2 big picks. I think it's sometimes... Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And I do think that to some degree it is a big mental hump to get over. I don't know, you obviously weren't here for this, but originally last season, the Blita-led 907 dominated League, didn't lose a single game, not even a single map through the entirety of their playoff run, didn't lose anything in regular season, and Blita won his trophy, won the $1,000 prize, and kind of just disappeared into irrelevancy. The dude's now on 2K for like 99% of his game and just gave up. But and I do think it is a nice, thing to see that there's at least some more hope. Originally on Nighthaven Labs, Spartans couldn't even get anything started, and they lost like a 7-3 total. I think we're just seeing much more early on, especially now they do have the defensive half. I think this could be at least a better showing originally. And I think a lot of the issue for Spartans is mentally just trying to get out of that state where you're already thinking you're losing. They lost the grand finals before, and I think that still does have a lot of mental effect of losing such a big game and such a dominant 3-0 sweep. It takes a lot to, get rid of that and still just try to stay mentally clear going forward. Yeah, and Dark's going to find that pretty important pick. He'll be on the Twitch this time around. Once again, I think playing a more entry-focused role. We've seen that more and more from him as his usage rate in this game has gone up, as he started more and more. It should be something to look forward to, is where is he going to place, in these playoff runs? Is he going to become that number 1 option? Orbital's going to swing. He at least finds Papafyy, but Kex takes him out. Noct finds JeffSicko. And that's back to a 3v3. Taken away even quicker. And Dark going nuclear, though. It's a large amount of gaps to make up here, but we have seen Quex in these situations before. They had a 1v1 originally in playoffs. We know what they can do to each other, and they both ran circles. They both absolutely dominated their games in playoffs. They both had an amazing grand finals against each other, and we saw that original 1v1, and it was a match point for, I think it was map 1, and Quex won it out. But maybe history can change. Maybe you can finally get that big win. Pretty big mental gap if Squirtle can finally pull it out here. Quex and go aggressive. Both have equal health at this point. The taps are going to come in, but neither can find that pick they look for. 40 seconds is going to loom over. A pre-fire from Quex, though, makes it dominant. 907 still have themselves a game. It does feel sometimes to culminate up to so much, to have such that, that important moment for Spartans, that pivotal, we can still be in this, and then to lose it in a pretty sad fashion. Yeah, it was the start. It was a beautiful way to get there, but I just think the issue is gonna be mental. I think that loss does huge damage to trying to just get out of that mindset that you can't win this. Yeah, and it does, I think, hurt. Because at this point, it is giving momentum to a team that didn't need it. 907 was already dominant. They've already looked maybe a little weaker than their Buddha counterparts, but I think the fact of the matter is they still had an almost perfect record. They still dominated in the round differential, in the entries. In all of the stats that truly mattered, they still hung with the best and were all almost top 5 in every single major stat. So there's a real chance that we could see SXL have their first back-to-back winner, and with different leaders too would be the crazy part. Where, you know, that group. Yeah, I mean, sometimes we'll see that once in a generational roster, and we have seen it before, even where, you know, they got so close to back-to-backs. Original Wild Boys back when they were running with Prime Andy's term, JBA, a Dexy, Nike, they had almost a back-to-back season, but just barely taken out of it. And maybe they can make their run, but as they're on the other side of the bracket, they're playing Nebula. It should... Yeah, I can at least agree to that. I think Nebula is a bit of an underdog, but, you know, we've already seen some big wins from other players. You've already seen some Pit Wrath pull out a huge one. I wouldn't count anyone out there yet. Yeah. I think, yeah, post-rehost, he just hasn't been that same level of impactful, but so is those baby steps of just getting something on the board. Just, I think mentally seeing that you're not, you know, 0-3, you at least have something there. You're still putting up some value is a big step. Yeah. Either way, I think it's a long road ahead. No matter how you play it, 907 still have at least one more map they have to win. But meantime, they're still down a player. They're still technically losing the number game here, but taken right back by Papafyy, the other duo. Quex might have been having a beautiful game so far, but taken back brings it to a 4v3. 907 give themselves that advantage. It swings the other way. Now they're up that one man. Well, the prones do come in, and at least a little bit of success. JeffSicko takes up a pistol to finish that one off. If he just knocked the one before, 40 seconds left. He's not likely going to find anything, and JeffSicko with the shotgun finishes it out. Yeah, I mean... Yeah, 907 at least get themselves a match point. They, once again, have looked strong, and I think it's still the same talking points, just with a very different leader, obviously. Buddha was much more passive. He wasn't in that entry game anywhere near as much, where JeffSicko still takes that same group. However, I think he's improved upon it. He has better entries together with the team. They're putting up better entry numbers. The trades might have gone down slightly, but they're still top 5 in it. And I think that's the big thing to look for is it might be a new pure leader at the helm, but it's still the same old 907 that just won last season. It's the same 907 that swept, you know, Black Hole, all the playoffs they were playing in. And it's still that same 907 that at least originally dominated, you know, Spartans in that grand final last season. I would guarantee, yeah, the mental is, as much as Spartans can try to get it out of their heads, it's the equivalent of like being, if the Falcons came back to the Super Bowl after 28-3 and it was the Patriots. You can do all you want to be, you know, immensely made man, but that's always going to weigh on you, I think, until you really do get a map win in here. Just show that you can win something against the team is the most important. Yeah, there's always that chance to have, you know, one big play when it's necessary. Maybe just get a, you know, pivotal C4 flank off. But it is also a bit of a weird one being held from Djevin all the way down in basement, holding a C4 angle of all things. Maybe a bit weird. The Squirtle at least is going to go aggressive, try to find the pick with limited success. The run is going to come on the other side. Both of them run in. Kex and JeffSicko's already in the site here. They grabbed the sled, just rushed in, I think, in the match point. They really want to get this one down, finish it out as easy as they can. And Spartans like blindsided in that 2v5 now. Dark finds the most important pick. Noct might find something, but players are already leaving. It's a 1v4. Finish off by Quex. 907 dominate. They get a 7-2 first map. We'll see you back on Cafe in just a small little break. And we are back with what was a very beautiful start. If you are a big fan of, 907, you can't do much better than they did. A 7-2 win. It was dominant from the get-go, and we do at least see the same map that ended it all, and could be in that same fashion. Originally, for some of you that didn't watch, Cafe was that final map of the SXL Grand Finals, where 907 swept. They finished off strong, with Dark having a generational 15-kill performance. So let's see if they can maybe come back and have that same level of gameplay. Maybe they can do that same 2-0 sweep. Yeah, some teams really do love it. It is, I think, one of those more... it is certainly one of the weirder ones, I think, to play around with. A lot of teams love it. A lot of teams hate it. But we do see Spartans in 907 tend to like this map more than most. The overall... It's somewhere, actually. Yeah, excuse me. I had to make sure I found this correct. Last season and this season, they were combined, I think, 7-1 on this map. So this is arguably one of their signature maps. We see a lot from them in leagues. We see every single time they just can dominate. 907, it's only they played, I think it's like they're 3-1 as of current. So I wouldn't expect anything crazy. However, the averages are a little ridiculous. You will see the likely top predicted players will be Squirtle and Kex. Squirtle averages just around a 2 KD, 12, 6, and 3, +4 in the entry globally on this map, so is one of his better maps on entries. And then you have Kex, the flex player, 12, 4, and 2, averaging a 3 KD when he plays this map.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
Yeah, and I think that'll be a consistent issue. Is it feels like if you watch these rounds, a lot of these are close wins that just fall apart at the very end for Spartans. It is a tragic way to go, but it should hopefully come back together maybe in the cafe. Maybe they can finally redeem themselves and at least get a map on 907. Absolutely. Excuse the little waiting. I'm getting a community vote up for this one. Who do you have taking it? Do you have a 2-0 sweep for 907, or do you see at least one round going, or at least one game more accurately going the way of Spartans? All right, you're gonna have to just cast in full for a little bit. Someone's decided to send like 45 hydrates. I don't have that much water on hand, so just handle the main casting for a little bit. Oh, come on. Not you. Sorry, I just came back finishing 2 gallons of water and then I proceed to see another 20 hydrates. This has got to be some crime.
Attackers need to locate and defuse as many bombs as they can.
See, I have... Yeah. I have something I will relate this image to in the nicest way I can. I'm not going to put this up because, one, SXL Esports does not have a Twitter account. Otherwise, I would force him to put it up. Do you remember perchance that one stomping this is I own this league? You never seen the meme? A while back, back when Stompin was playing console, he once said I own this league, and that became a iconic meme for a little bit. It's a niche meme. I know the R6 esports page mentioned it like once when G2 had a big run, but holy shit! Why was there so many hydrates? I'm getting close to actually being able to cast. Oh my god. Okay, I think we're good. Well, aggression on the Jeb in front. Apparently, the PC player with a little bit more strategy in his mind doesn't mean he's not going to go aggressive. He's still going to find Papafyy and damage on pretty much everyone near those windows. So at least a good start for that. Spartans maybe have something a little bit more nice to root for. Yeah, it does allow for those more unique plays on angles, so thank you. All right, sorry. Yeah, I need to, we'll see. We're gonna get production figured out after this, because this is a bit of a scuffed stream, but soon we'll have a little bit better for both sides. We'll have one observer for us both, and then hopefully a full producer and desk, and maybe even live stats and live graphs. We'll see. That's yeah, it'd be nice when it comes in. However, the Jevin, despite his impact and his hilariousness on the sides of the windows, is going to be found by Darth Vader. Nice and relatively helpful pick. Tactical joins the... I personally I think that Spartans can pull it out, but it's all dependent on TQC here. We saw him go nuclear on Cafe, almost saving their run just a while back. He's going to need to pull it off again, but instead he's going to be found by Darth Vader early. Darth Vader finds a quad. Looks like he might even see an ace again. Are we going to see 2 aces back to back? Just barely saving it, but Orbital and Quex give themselves a 1v1 with all the drones in the world. Intel is no longer the issue. It's purely that gunfight skill. With 10 seconds left, the time is going to be the main issue. Quex can just sit and kind of hide from the fights. Orbital's got to take it, and he knows it. Quex, once again, ice in his veins, never misses. And that'll be a pretty pivotal round, despite the quad. It's crazy. We've now seen 9 picks, or 9 of the 10 kills in these past 2 rounds be held by 2 people. 9 picks by 2 people is a little ridiculous. I mean, shit, it's working. You won your round, but we're seeing these generational plays from every single player, and yet still it's coming down to these tense 1v1s is a little bit insane to me. Yeah. Uh-oh, you're cutting out a little bit, but I did at least just get the very, very last thing you were saying, which is who should win this one? I do have it going to 907. They do tend to play this first floor just a little bit better. There's more roaming potential with all 2 of the floors being opened up and ready for your use. I think that the anchor play that we'll see likely from Quex or Dark should be good enough. But I'm a little bit hesitant to say we're even gonna see Dark anchor at all. I think he might go aggressive simply just because of his beautiful stat line to start off at 6 and 2. Yeah, it has felt once again like there's always this level of just pure chaos, I think, to some of these games. No matter how much we can look at the stats and predict and give those numbers, I think these games are always just going to be up in air simply because the actual level of skill is very, very close between these teams. It's not like we're seeing an extreme, I think, you know, lack of skill from either team. Yeah, exactly. These teams are not yet. Either way, it looks like a... Yeah, I think the big issue so far is it felt like the Spartans' drones had been untouched for the most part. They have all the intel they really needed. Despite only having 2 drones left, the intel has been just fine. And it feels like the comms have saved them quite a bit. Squirtle. Oh, Kex? Alright. Either way, another pick from Kex. Knocked is again unbelievably low, leaving a lot of pressure once again onto Squirtle to really clutch up for his team here. As the health disadvantage is pretty large, and it's going to get even larger, though. Kex is going to find Squirtle, leaving it easy to be finished by Dark, and seems even to this, you know, with the dominance coming from the side of Squirtle right now, it's not enough, and 907 just have that more complete team. Yeah, it's been a bit of a weird one to start off, and I think this is sort of a bit of a continuation from what we saw at the very last game of the season. Dark came in, did what I consider one of the greatest sub-in performances from from any grand final ever. He came in and he averaged 15 in his 2 maps, did everything you'd even ask of a sub and more, and we've kind of seen how he got rewarded with more playing time, more entry picks. They're facilitating an offense in a, you know, pure game plan that's more with him in it. And the biggest difference is, I think you're going to see these games where sometimes everything's going to feel right, the game plan is going to go how it should, and you're going to see all of these fights be given to the side of, you know, Dark. He's going to get all of these planned, well made out, you know, intel-based, flash-based, easy fights to take, and they're going to go his way. He's still an amazing entry player.
Attackers need to locate and defuse bombs.
Excuse being late just a little bit. Had to get some stuff figured out there. But we should be back in full, hopefully, for the rest of this game. No more, hopefully, you know, late runs that I have to worry about. Just a nice, you know, clean way to end it out. But I2QC is at least going to find Papafyy. A pretty necessary pick, I think. You need to see these entries start to finally flow the other way of Spartans. You need to see more than just Squirtle be that main man to, you know, worry about. I think we're seeing, you know, there's at least some threat with Kex there being that big number 2 player, but I just don't, I think we see that same threat from anyone on Spartans quite yet. Yeah, it has been his moment so far, and it feels like he's one of those players that can come in and out of the game so fast. We can see him be, you know, that number 1 option that Dark will, you know, he'll lose touches to Dark, he'll lose those fights, but instead Dark seems to be taking the lead once again, getting rid of Orbital. Now making that just a little bit easier to win, but Squirtle's still going to find his. Is it once again, it feels like this is just a game where we're seeing these 2 stars go ban for ban, and Dark finishes Squirtle. At least one leader seems to finish out the other, leaving Noct and I2QC to try to clean up the pieces in a 2v3. Yeah. There maybe could have been something fun there if, you know, if everything went right, but maybe a little bit too much aggression from 907, but not really a big punish either way. It seems still the same issues, I think. Yeah, I mean, he has, I think this is sort of the first full circle game. It was originally a Bwita-led team where he came in and showed his first, you know, his first big game, and where he kind of showed the league world, I'm a top player to be worried about. And now we're seeing that go the other direction. Now we're seeing that, you know, he's coming in, he's the leading man now. He's the one that he's going to lead this team to that big moment. And we're seeing the duo that dominated last time, Quex and Papafyy, take a more backseat to him now.
Attackers need to locate
Where I think
and
it's
defuse bombs.
a showing of like a new era, almost at 907. Still that same dominant roster, but just not the same way it's run. Yeah, and I think the best way to look at a team like 907 is, even in, you know, let's say they do their worst, you know, worst games, it's still such a good game. Like, their floor is so unbelievably high, I find it so hard to even worry about them. Every single time, you know, we check in on them and we cast a game for them, it feels like they're always showing up again and again. The entries, you know, even the players that are playing their roles might change massively from game to game, but it still feels like every time those players can still show up to the occasion when they need to. And a bit of a same little setup here for the most part, as I2QC is going to be the one to have the Nomad again, and not changing much really in general, but you will see a change of Squirtle playing the what will soon be obsolete op and reworked in Thatcher. But that's a man. And in it all, it still feels like even with Papafyy struggling, this team hasn't seen any real drop in performance yet. Jevon's going to make a double. Quex is at least going to find ITQC. Squirtle's going to go down to Kex, and you might have an even game here, but it feels like the domination has been one way, and it hasn't even stopped. 907, no matter what, have just kept that control in these rounds, kept what feels like the actual dominance in terms of space and timing again and again. Yeah, I think there just has to be, once again, we're seeing a better half, I think. There's much more hope here in this game than there was in the original. I think this sort of is linear to how it was, once again, in Grand Finals last season, where they started off bad, but the more and more they played, the closer and closer that gap got. And they might have finished just below what they wanted. They might have not truly gotten that win that they hoped for, but maybe they could finally reclaim and get at least a bit of a revenge win and repentance for a pretty weak Grand Finals last season. Yeah, it's that one round at a time mentality that I think we have seen from Squirtle at times. I've talked to him before in interviews, and he's been very open about the fact that most of these big games, especially when he said against 907, they're watching the VODs. They're, looking at what went wrong in the first, their first game together, and what can they change to try to adapt, because it is always going to be that adaptation. I think is going to be the big thing for Spartans. They've generally been able to hold the meta as well and still be a pretty consistent team in playstyle, even with changes to their favorite ops, and I think that is the biggest thing to look for. I get what you mean, yeah, that mental coolness to be able to handle those high pressure situations. And I'd argue this is still, I think, a big thing to worry about. Is you might have had, a better half so far, but the mental is still there. The fact of the matter is you still lost this map not even, 6 months ago to a arguably stronger team, and you're not doing all that much better. Always time to fix things here, but whips from Papafyy on both sides. He at least barely finds pick on the Jevon, but traded up by Orbital as it goes back to a 4v4 and gets itself a net equal. Yeah, I tend to agree so far. It's been just a game of who's holding the better angle. And I think that a lot of that is just purely how console plays. It's not anywhere near as much pure strategy as it is who's playing where, how they're playing that, angle. It's, I think, a much more basic version of what we'd see on that Pro Leagues to go. Yeah, I mean, I think it still is going to be a close one here. Squirtle's at least going to find the pick on the JeffSicko. Entry picks off entry, and maybe a little bit better here now with a 4v3. And the time is still going to be, once again, that issue to worry about. Advantage is a great thing, but it's only a one-player advantage, and you still have a lot of space to clear that hasn't even really been touched so far. Yeah, you're going to see Kex at least fall back. The ace is going to come in. You're going to see that utility still have its value, but it's just really a question of can you get this plant down in time. It's just a big race against the clock as the run-in is going to come. Orbital not find their picks. I mean, just Kex in the 1v4 to try to clutch it out. He might have good positioning here, but I don't think that's going to be enough. The angle is going to be seen. The prone might be found. Orbital at least finishes out strong, and Spartans, for the first time in a long time, have a tie game. Yeah, I think he has certainly played a little bit differently and has gotten better since that time, and he'll always be known for that, but I think he's established himself here as a really, really great entry and has been a surprisingly good leader despite his reputation and Jinxie's, you know, streams being a little bit toxic. He's actually held his teams relatively well together. Yeah, absolutely. And is that... Oh, yeah, never mind. I told him it was cool. For context, there's probably 2 or 3 players in the stream that are on these teams, but there's also a large enough delay where it's not an issue. Cough, cough. I'm looking at probably Dark. I haven't checked viewers list, but Dark does tend to watch the stream mostly because he wants to clip it for his TikTok. Yeah. It generally is fine. I most of the time had players talk to me beforehand. He's talked to me a handful of times about it, and I do keep the same delay. For most of these, we're sitting at either a 120. For these, you know, more in-control games, you know, the easier ones that aren't a big deal. This is still obviously a big deal, but it's not a grand finals, and then we'll either do 180 or 240 for those more important games, you know, your grand finals, seasonal series for an Ubisoft, or like an Ubisoft official event per se. I'll do 240, but it kind of just ranges. Likely not, and I think what I do really want to see though is we did see Squirtle have a huge half, and Jevin came in orbital as well in that, you know, second part in those last 2 rounds, really come up and step up when they needed it. But if we can see that same entry dominant Squirtle who was able to make those plays and this time do it on the roam while in defense, could be the generational thing that they finally need. You know, that big change from that first, you know, time they met. Yeah, he's hopefully looking to try to break that streak and break what has been a bit of a cycle for him. He's gotten close to that game, gotten close to those grand finals, and gotten close to winning, but just has never really claimed that title yet. Shots will be going out. Dark is going to get quite a bit of damage dealt to him, and not the easiest thing to make up. But sitting outside the window, he should at least be a viable player still, but it will certainly hurt, you know, at least early on. I mean, yeah, this has been an issue sometimes with 907. It's not a common one, and we've never seen it on Cafe before, but sometimes their executions will have weird timing. Sometimes they'll come in late. You're at least going to see the drop come in eventually. That'll be coming from Papafyy. He's going to hopefully try to increase what has been a lackluster start, and that'll Absolutely. I mean, when you need those mental boosts sometimes, and even if it's one pick, it maybe isn't that significant now. It will be later. It will be when, you know, this is 2 or 3 rounds from now, and maybe he's on a heater because of that pick. Maybe that momentum carries him mentally. We're at least going to see the 40 seconds come in. Eventually, the push is going to come in. Orbital's going to find Papafyy, though, try to curb any confidence left there, and... And a lone C4 is going to come out. Orbital's going to have a beautiful one on the Quex at least. That'll make it hopefully a nice advantage. And with 20 seconds left, your options get pretty damn thin. Any, you know, real walk-in here is just riskier and riskier. And, you know, with only 10 seconds left, it looks likely to be over. Yeah, and I think this will be the first official lead. No, there has been 2 recorded times that Spartans has taken a lead against 907, and it was also on Cafe. They didn't, unfortunately, lose that map, but maybe they can, you know, break that omen, break the cycle, and finally get that map against 907 as they've wished for so long. Yeah, and I think to some degree, though, it's still a pretty nerve-wracking run. Is you've been here before. Same score, actually. Still was a 4-3 and they took that league. But then, you know, we saw, I think it was a timeout from Buddha, just a quick pause, and then they came back together, and then they dominated, and they didn't lose a single round to clean it out and sweep. Do I think we're going to see the same thing? Probably not. But it is still there, and it is still technically possible. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from, but I will say, for the first time in a long time, in one of the big reasons I love Spartans as a team, they're actually playing a viable Pro League setup. Maybe not the deployable shield and isn't maybe the most new, but you're playing, you know, the general freezer how you should. Smoke, in terms of Dcrk, is playing where he should. I think very much an experience and an homage to his T3 experience. And it is a nice plus, I think, either way. The more and more Dcrk is going to, you know, play PC, improve, and learn more strats on that end, I think it will transfer over pretty nicely to the console side as well. Yeah, at least I think knows there's someone there. There's at least someone in this vicinity, but with no real drone and no ping quite yet, it's more of a general guess and instinct than really, I think, that guarantee or ping that he's looking for. Huh? Seems Orbital might be the one to go aggressive. Yeah, and it feels like within just a switch, we're finally seeing that aggression come into life. We're going to see Papafyy on the verticality with the Ram start making his move. You know, maybe closing down that side a little bit more. JeffSicko is going to find his pick on a Jevin. Make that 2, getting rid of Orbital. Already, VIP is going to get its way cleared in. Hopefully, a move to be made. Squirtle is going to find his 10th, getting rid of Dark. And maybe even more to come as Quex and JeffSicko both sit in pretty fightable spots. Yeah, I mean, you're... Yeah, but Papafy's going to find his pick. Squirtle left the one before. There's only so much a man can do, because all of it's going to close in on him. Aggression all going to eventually come to a head as JeffSicko finishes 907, bring back, and finally get it to a tie game. Got that 4-4 that you need. You're back there, okay. Yeah, and it is an unfortunate fact. I think sometimes it's a mental issue to some degree. I think it's a mental issue, and I think that the mental issue falls significantly more on Squirtle's side. He generally calls a lot of the plays, so maybe the Jevin as well, but either way, the Jevin just got swept in his playoffs in Wild Boys League in CC. A Wild Boys CC, a team that just had, well, essentially their farewell tour and lost both of their games in their farewell tour. But let's say he's not calling the plays. Let's say Squirtle is... This is the same game where he dropped an unbelievable amount of kills. I think it was 13 or 14 or so. They still lost pretty single-handedly. And I think it, to some degree, still haunts him. Maybe not like a literal spook, but it's in his head. Mentally, he's still... You know, I think he still sees that really, really juggernaut of a team, and he hasn't even beaten them yet. So far, he hasn't beaten them on a single map. He hasn't brought them in overtime. He's never truly gotten close. And I think that's the big thing, is he just needs to have some win. He needs to get maybe an overtime. Just some real show that he can hang with this team. You know, Spartans isn't this unbelievable underdog that'll never have a chance. They've just had an unlucky way to get there. You know, they've constantly just had it. There he goes. Yeah, I mean... Yeah, but I think his more important relevance is going to be found later in these lurks that he would come from the knock. But since, as I'm saying, that Squirtle's going to find the big C4 pick onto Dark Vader, that top frag, the big entry for the other side of 907. Their main man, the one who's kind of led their team to the promised lands and, you know, winning these games. I think losing that is going to hurt significantly more. Four so far. Yeah, I mean, it's the first time we've seen a real fight put up from Spartans. They've struggled so much to put that up. Quex, however, might finally have a chance here to find a pick. Other way around, though, they both know where they're, you know, coexisting with each other, but neither wants to go for that aggressive step. Neither wants to either you know, lose that advantage or bring it even farther away. And instead, we're going to sit with just a minute left as both are, I think, a little bit scared to make the move. Yeah, still in that 3v3 though with 20 seconds left. It's going to get down to that crunch time now. Kex has been that top frag, and he'll likely continue to be, but ITQC is going to sit in freezer. He's going to be the one that hasn't been spotted quite yet, but Kex just barely spots him out of the corner despite the mute being there. Papafy's in sight, making his move. Quex finds at least a triple to end it off, but 1v2 now for Nock to try to make his move, make his mark on the game. If he can find the one, he can at least try to get the post plant left to the 1v1 with Kex. Ending always in what we've seen is these 1v1 crunch times, as both sides have had a bit of a mixed results, but Nock needs this desperately for Spartans. They need this win. They need this chance to maybe get close to match point. The shots are on point, but they're just not quite hitting. You're close, but not enough. Both are still low, but Kex has that health advantage. He has the peeker's advantage. But now, once again, tags up from Nocked. Now you're left with just 15 seconds left. You're forced to make your aggressive move. It's not going to be given to you. You have to run and make it fast, because otherwise this game will be over. We'll get so close to that match point. The defuse is going to come in, but it won't be enough. Kex knows it. You might find the pick, but not a sudden find the round. And yeah, I mean, it's got to hurt now for Spartans to get so close to a round, to just have that pick, have everything fall into place, but still not enough. And with this third ban, I would expect probably a ban on the Ram. Most likely the verticality has seemed to be an issue. You know, maybe you could see a shield, but I do have doubts. In defense side, I would expect maybe an Azami or possibly even a ban of a Warden to try to just take away the fun op. Opt to see the more normal bans. I can get why. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think after the lurks we've consistently seen from the side of 907, it was a ban that was more inevitable than not. It's been successful too. Generally, these lurks have gone relatively unpunished, and they'll find 2 or 3 picks a single round. It had to go, more or less. Castle is much more, I think, for that third floor. Supremely strong up top. It always kind of has been, but I don't know. Mm-hmm. And I will say, just quickly, I did forget to mention, the community vote is relatively leaning towards the side of 907. 78% say 907 can finish this in the 2-0 sweep, and 28% say, you know, Spartans can pull it back together. Maybe they can get to that map 3. I can get her coming from there. Well, at least the smart play is Squirtle has a little bit of damage on the JeffSicko, trying to stop him from getting that Claymore down, but he'll at least prevent the runouts. We start in a pretty generally normal format. Obviously with a bit of a weirdness in between, missed drone and some damage, but at the end of the day, it is the same start. But it's like that same start we saw before. It also is going to come down to Papafyy being the aggressive one. However, Fenrir is going to make it harder. Jevin is going to find his first entry pick in a bit. Always an welcome one. Shoot. Really? I can get why Castle is so strong up here. I think that it's worth that ban simply just because third floor is so hard to defend without him, which is why you're going to see the mirrors and they have to be forced behind those metal walls instead of playing so aggressive into, you know, everywhere else. I think it's just more to make them retreat and make it much easier to take the space. We see the same plan, but this big thing to watch here is Nock has a pretty good angle, but Kex is waiting with the glass. 3v3 now. The smoke at least found some pick, but Quex is going to find another now. And what has been a weaker game from him, but he's starting to turn it back up. Squirtle's going to go down, leaving ITQC and Orbital try to finish it back together. Now in the 1v3, ITQC needs to get a triple here to stave off a match point, stave off that series point, try to change history, but Quex will find the pick. It'll be his beautiful start. He's going to try to end it strong, and 907 approaches series point. I'm a Spartans fan through and through. I've seen this team back from, you know, when they started as a team that didn't have a lot of hope under the name Redemption. You know, they went farther than anyone expected. They had the upsets against the players. They beat Wolves, old X team. You wouldn't know them, sadly. But, you know, they've come so far, and it feels like, in a word, all roads lead to Quex and 907. He's held them consistently in contention. He's never given them what they've wanted. He's always been the one to end the game. Dark is also here, obviously, and he's been the one to send them off the chopping block and was a pretty big reason why 907 won. And, you know, this time, instead of maybe a grand finals match, we do have it in a BO3 format. But we're going to need to see a generational comeback here. You know, we're going to need to see Squirtle turn into his prime MVP self, just like last season was in that regular season. It's hard to disagree. It feels like, I don't know, to see it so close, you really do want to see the underdog story. You just want to see, you know, one more map from Spartan, see if they can finally bring it all together, finally break the cycle. But they have two really hard rounds in front of them either way. Yes, they might be favorable sites, but we haven't seen a 2-round win streak in them in a long time. And I don't think we've ever even seen a 2-round win streak this BO3 from Spartans, if I'm not mistaken. Oh no, we've seen at least a couple. Bad time, bad time, bad time. Yeah, I will say I do think though, is, you know, you might not think too much of it, but I think that Squirtle on the pick here is actually pretty impactful, and I think that it is a really big deal to give him the more, I guess you'd call like manager of the offense under this. It is a really, really fun idea, and I do like the logic. Now a Nomad also has to be worried about it. She's constantly trying to make her move and try to find that pick, with the limited success so far. Nomad's going to be taken. Oh, Papafyy is making his move. Noct is going to find the first here on the JeffSicko. Aggression is likely going to come in on elsewhere. Kex is unbelievably low, but Djevin isn't able to find that full pick. He's unable to totally finish it off. But you're still going to see Cigar Shot be ran in from Papafyy, now 3-9, who has struggled significantly in these past 2 maps. Maybe he can make his move. He's going to find Noct, make it back to an even game, and is likely going to force back, you know, the play of Squirtle. But he opts to just keep going aggressive. You might be a down for Dark, but not the pick you need. ITQC is going to find one, but at 2v3, you need to get this down desperately. Kex might be low, but you need more. You need that full pick to really get there. And he's holding the angle, and they know it. They can't really get a safe way to get that. To get so close isn't going to be what you need. Dark's going to find it, leaving a 1v3 for ITQC. He's been in this before, but needs to finally change history. Needs to break the cycle of what has been seen. All the players might be low. You might finally have the health advantage, but you need more. A C4 is going to come out. ITQC is at least going to find one. He has 2 more to go with 20 seconds left. He's going to find the third. Triple on the round now. 1 man. All he has to do is just play it right. Don't throw to Quex one more time. Don't let him finish this game like he did. Just run, play your corners, and you might finally have another game to go. You might finally have 1 more round to stay in. And barely ITQC hangs on. Spartans find 1 more round. Getting so close. Spartans maybe finally can break that history, break what has been a miserable cycle for them. Maybe get to overtime, maybe have a chance of map 3. A little bit more to go. Yeah, I mean, it has been a much better look, and I don't know, this is... Yeah. Yeah, you know, people say pressure can turn, you know, you can finally see those stars when all of it is on the line, when you have finally a chance to break the cycle, to get a map against 907, to prove everyone wrong and say that you at least did something. You're no longer a team that's always going to lose. You have more to you. You have a game in you. You have a real chance of winning. And the pressure is there, and I think this is Squirtle's statement game. This is a statement round. Yeah, it does. That's the big question. Can the team that has always been close to the game and never truly been there, they've never finally beaten that indomitable wall, can they do it? Can they finally take it back? Can Squirtle have a generational run when he needs it? Can he be your player to win it all when he needs it? All down to the nitty-gritty. C4 will go out, but with no success. You're going to see most of the aggression is going to come the other side. Kex will likely be, I think, the big engine to run through. Dark has taken a bit more of a backseat in these past couple of rounds. And you've seen someone like Quex step his way up, Kex step their way up, and a much more of a 3-level, you know, set where I think it isn't just one man dominating. It's more equal. A swing's going to come in. Papafy's at least going to find Noct for the first. That'll be his big entry, I think, for that game. What? Jevin, we do see him eventually looming with JeffSicko. They both know something's there, but they don't know quite yet where. You got to play it careful. The shots are going to go up, but not quite the pick you need. But you will have drones to work with here. You're going to have, hopefully, a play. But maybe the first, or the second fight, more accurately, of the game will be between JeffSicko here. Papafy's going to find another now onto Squirtle. when it's important, Papafyy is going to be the one to step up for his team, be the one to get 907 a better chance. Dark Vader is going to find something, make that 2, and officially finish. Quex with the last, a flawless round. 907 prove you might be close, but you'll never be us. In a dominant 2-0 fashion. The cycle isn't broken. Spartans lose once again on that map, and 907 secure their ticket to finals with what will likely be Wild Boys Pit Wrath. A beautiful banger from me. And would you like to sign off?